You are listening to Musings with Morales, brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.
Welcome to Musings with Morales. I'm Morales. Really excited to be here again with you all. I want to thank everybody who's joining us on a reoccurring basis. Those of you who have subscribed, I think you got a real treat in store for you tonight. A wonderful person that I had the honor of meeting a few months back through actually social media. I think we aligned in kind of the genre of what we're discussing on social medias, really looking to empower through stories. In my case, often sharing other people's stories. In your case, really bringing a triumphant story, in my opinion, but looking forward to diving into it even further today. Justin Pham, thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So, let's kind of take a couple steps back to the last time you were here. I got to say that I was really impacted by the conversations that we had that night. And, as you stepped in tonight, I was kind of sharing with you one of the moments that really stood out to me. You had some discussion with our other guest, Omar, and me about happiness in life and kind of the approach to happiness that you had and the approach to happiness that you have. So I'd like to kind of just share that with you again, and then maybe we can dialogue on that a little bit.
When you get older, you start to realize happiness isn't really what you wake up for. You don't care about is happiness. As long as everyone's good, everyone's safe, everyone's just happy, then you're happy. It's a weird way of living, but I feel like I've come to that stage too. When I was younger, obviously I would wake up and go, oh, what's going to make me happy today? I was a kid. But then as you get older, you start to realize that maybe other people's happiness makes you happy. And that's what you kind of go for. Yeah, I do remember that actually, and you played it a little bit before. Yeah, I think obviously when you're younger, happiness is something you look forward to. You wake up and you kind of dictate your day by happiness.
Chase it.
You're like, oh yeah, whatever makes me happy today, that's what I want to do. And then when you get older, I think as time goes on, you kind of look for more of enjoyment, or especially, I think we said it too, as for a guy, especially if you have family, you look for happiness in others. Like if your wife, your kids, that makes you happy. And obviously I don't have any kids or, like a wife, but I think for me right now, it's all about enjoyment and being able to be grateful, But happiness it's weird to say, I still don't look for it. I still agree with what I said in that podcast, and I still just believe that enjoyment is kind of how I see things. And even with dialysis, it's more about just enjoyment and reserving my energy to just stay healthy. It's never about being happy, And it sounds weird too, because, when someone hears about that, everyone wants to be happy. Everyone strives to be happy, especially even nowadays. Yeah. But it's just funny how I think like that.
Yeah. So again, that moment really stood out to me. I think that, those that have listened to it, it can really resonate with not just men, as we were kind of in that context of things, but most adults, at a certain point, you realize that it's not all me. And, you just mentioned that you don't have any children. I'm sure you have family, but you mentioned that life was about making other people happy now. Yeah. And I see you sharing a lot of just powerful content, vulnerable moments, kind of the day in the life of, and we'll get into that more. But like, who are you seeking to make happy today?
I think just family and friends, I think since I was a kid, I think just trying to make other people happy. It's weird. It's always been like that, honestly. Even probably up until probably high school or something, I just felt like seeing other people happy kind of made me enjoy it. Like I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like even giving people gifts, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, he's happy or she's happy, and it made me feel good. I learned that at a young age, and so I think it's just something that I've kind of built on my framework of life at an somewhat early age.
We've done 21 episodes now, but I got to say that you're one of the coolest people we've had on here, man. And
I don't know.
yeah, man. Like, Paco, what do you say, man?
I totally agree.
Like, I just, as I was talking to people about today, I was like, this guy's like trendsetter type, fashionable. He's got a mindset that I think people need to hear about.
Coolest thumbnail also.
Yeah, and the coolest. I love the thumbnail we've got for this episode.
Yeah,
so
that was a good one.
I gotta sorry, just if I can, I just need to catch up a little bit, man.
It looks good. Good.
So hopefully I can, we call it like osmosis or diffusion, right? Let's balance out a little bit here. Super cool guy, man. Let's dive into it. I asked you, what do you want to talk about if we come back here today? And can you tell me what your answer was?
Yeah, I mean, when you asked me that, and I've been meaning to come back too, because you did ask me before I went to Hawaii, and I didn't want to come back. And I was like, when I come back, I'll definitely come through. And even after my trip, I was thinking, the longevity of being on dialysis. I was just thinking how my thoughts are always changing, and it's always evolving with the longevity of being on dialysis.
Yeah.
And I am, somewhat young compared to a lot of the other people on dialysis. So, I see what I see, and then, I'll take one in, I'll take what I take in. And I haven't been on it as long as like some people. I mean, I've heard people being on it for 10 years, even like 15 years, which is, I think is pretty respectful, like to be able to keep on going.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
Going on my second year, like my thoughts have changed too. And just, and I've said it before too a little bit. It's like, you look at life, you're grateful, you want to be, you want to be happy that you're, being able to still live and stuff like that. But I think the longevity for me now, I'm starting to kind of change a little bit on how I think about life. And it's in a good way too. You're also kind of revealing who's really there for you too, I think the first year was a lot of people learning that what you're going through, and then the second year it's a lot about how long are people going to be there for you, how long are people going to be trying to help you, and maybe even possible donors and stuff like that. And I made a video about it the other day too, about you really kind of expose who your real friends are, to see how much they're willing to help you, how much. And if they wanted to be a donor, I don't expect every friend of mine to be like, oh yeah, I want to be a donor.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like I said, it's you have these friends that say that you a ride or die, you like family to me, you like my brother, but it's just like when things happen, it's like I don't see anything that that backs up what you just said. So I feel like longevity of being on any chronic illness, you get to really see who the people around you. Like how close they really are to you,
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that when one faces danger with a partner, a homie, a friend, a spouse, when one faces their own danger, things get really transparent, and you see the true light of people, right? So, I think that's probably a scary thought, though. I mean, hey, let me give one of my organs, right? There's a lot to it as well. What are your thoughts when? I mean, and what I'm hearing is, are you seeing more of the scared, or are you seeing more people, step up to the plate and say, "Let me see," and then, what happens after that?
I'm not mad at anyone specifically. I think it's just more of. It's like a lesson that you see in life. And I think that's with like life in general. When you get older, you kind of really see who's there, who's not really there. I think I'm at that age where you kind of just see the true colors of people, regardless of your sickness or not. Because, when you get older, people kind of, whoever's there is going to be there.
Yeah.
So, how I see it now is I'm not mad at anyone. I think it's just more of just getting to know and kind of the journey to be on dialysis. And I know everyone goes through this too. And I've talked to a lot of other people on dialysis will have a very similar story. You have a lot of close friends, you have a lot of family. And I think when no one really kind of puts in that effort, you kind of really just see how they all react towards it. And it's not even in a way, like I said, it sounds like I'm mad or like sad, but it's just more of like, okay, this is what I see. And that's about it.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's a lot to give your organ to someone, or it's a lot to really be going through surgery for someone. A lot of people are afraid of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's as I kind of self-reflect, it's almost uncomfortable to even think about it. And I asked the question of another guest of ours, is, if you had it, and in this case you do have the chronic kidney disease, would you feel comfortable in asking all these people that you love to go get checked out? Is there a boundary for you on like who you would ask, who you would talk about this with? Is it like, let me broadcast it, or is it like the people that you think are, maybe you assume they would be willing?
Oh man, I think now or before, I didn't really like asking, and I don't even really like asking for help in general. I think I'm learning that now. I think asking for help is good to do, but I think the way I've kind of lived my life, I never asked for help. I always felt alone, in a weird way. Like I never liked that feeling of being able to be like, oh, can you help me with this? Yeah. It's just, and now at this point, this is like a major help. Like this is me really being vulnerable and being like, yo, look, like this is what I need. Yeah. I don't think there's a right way for me to do it. I mean, I think at some point maybe I'll reach out to some people. Maybe that's part of me too. Maybe I got to be the one to ask as well. I just haven't figured out a way to do it. I've mentioned with friends or I've talked to friends that, will kind of slightly mention it, but that's kind of messed up too. Cause it's like, don't be saying stuff like you will get checked out or we're going to do do this for you if you ain't going to do it.
And then not follow up.
Yeah. I feel like that's actually happened a couple of times, like, cause I think it's maybe awkward for them too. They're like, I would definitely check it out, but I got little problems too. And so it's like, I don't want to make it a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. We have a few watchers from the renal world already, and definitely want to let everybody know if you have questions, just type them in, and I'll make sure to carry those on to Justin. Justin, if you don't mind, how old are you? When did you find out you had kidney disease? What was the cause of the kidney disease? Kind of take us down that road of like finding out.
Yeah, so I'm 32 right now, based out of Los Angeles. I got diagnosed professionally when I was 30. But prior to that, I had kidney issues when I was younger. But back then, when I was younger, I kind of didn't really know too much. It was a surgery that was, I believe my bladder was infected. The tube from my bladder to the kidney was too long. So at age 9, they cut that tube, reconnected it. And I believe from there, that actually stunted the growth from my kidneys. So I have about 2 half kidneys that equal as like a normal 1 kidney. And I think throughout my adulthood, that's kind of what happened. And I think, and this is one thing that I think living in America, especially through like the 90s and early 2000s, the diets that we had, the data we had wasn't really there. Yeah. So I was drinking and eating a lot of things I probably shouldn't. Like just the regular fast food, just also high sodium, phosphorus, and stuff like that. I didn't
was that the norm, or was there also the home cooked meals? And
it was home cooked meal, and I don't think especially with Asian food, how it is, like soy sauce, hoisin sauce, fish sauce. Yeah. It's high sodium content.
And you said you're Asian. Where's your family's heritage?
I'm Vietnamese.
Okay. Are you born here in?
I was born here. Family was born in Vietnam, like both my parents.
Okay.
And a lot of my parents, they really just made normal Vietnamese food. So you know how that is. It's just really salty.
Right.
But
and it's good.
It's really good. It's amazing. I love fish sauce.
Yeah, so do I.
And so that's kind of like the what I was eating, and also high phosphorus intake, which I never even knew until 2 years ago. I didn't even know what phosphorus was. So.
But it's in everything, right?
It's basically, it is in everything. Yeah. And I was just, it's not like I had a bad diet, but I think, just the normal, typical diet in America, fast food maybe like 2-3 times a week. You're having frozen dinner every now and then when your parents are gone. Ramen noodles, dry, it's just years and years of accumulation. And
I think it's kind of important to take a look at this. I mean, just your perception of one of the factors to the deterioration of your kidney function is partially what happened in childhood with the I guess the editing of your ureter, and then an infection, if the bladder infection, and then the other part is just maybe in your perception that some of it had to do with the way you lived your life. But it sounds like you lived a pretty like normal, like American life, right? Like some fast food, but some home cooking, and the home cooking should be better, but then also there's some stuff in it that so. How many of us live like that, and are not really thinking the way that you're thinking now.
I think everyone does,
Yeah.
and this is what I was saying too. I always wanted to try to, and I know there's a lot of data and a lot of people talking about it now. It's a lot more popular now than it was like 10 years ago. I still think that a lot of people do eat like that.
Yeah.
And if not, it probably just got worse. It's just only a certain amount of people that are actually focused on diet and being healthy.
Yeah.
And I think in the past maybe like 3 years, I've seen a big jump in people actually focusing on health. You know, at least working out,
Yeah.
you know, drinking water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And alcohol dropped as well. I believe in the Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Gen Z doesn't drink as much as my generation did. Millennials.
Interesting. But maybe they're doing some other stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're vaping and stuff like that.
And
you know, but
is Gen Z's doing the fentanyl as well, right?
yeah, I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, which is a whole
there's-
pandemic in the United States right now.
Right.
But you know, again, back to the diet. Like I think it was a pretty normal diet. You're definitely looking back at, have you changed some of those things since? I mean, what's been the change with kidney failure as far as lifestyle that you feel like was a factor?
Well, now I don't drink at all. You know, so before I would drink alcohol, and to be honest with you, it's just crazy to even think. Like when I first moved to LA, I was drinking at least every weekend with my friends for at least 6 years straight or
Do
something.
you feel like that's abnormal? I drink like once
I
a
don't
week.
even think that's. I mean,
It's usually here.
at my age and living here, I feel like it's pretty normal. It's not like I woke up and like opened up a beer.
Yeah.
It was more just like, oh, on the weekends,
Yeah.
like a lot of. I was a social
Right.
drinker.
Yeah.
And everyone my age was.
Yep.
So that's pretty much what I did for a while. I'm sure that maybe sped up the kidney failure, but I don't think it's what ultimately caused it. I just think that it was just, you know, prior to my first surgery. And I think I probably could have stopped or at least paused the kidney failure a little bit later if I followed the renal diet, you know, low sodium, stuff like that, low phosphorus. I'm pretty sure I could have. And if I like kind of got checked in, and that's one thing I think we talked about in the last podcast. I never really got checked out.
Yeah. Till it was to the point where it was.
Yeah,
already-
and that's like everyone. I feel
Yeah.
like that's like the same story. Everyone, once you know, it's too late.
Yeah.
You know.
And quite often, I mean, let me ask this: did you know and you just waited?
You know, I always had it in the back of my mind that it could be kidney failure, but the weird thing was I was still urinating a
Yeah.
lot, so I thought maybe that I didn't.
Something else going on.
But then I found out that you can still urinate and just not take out the toxins. You're just, you know, peeing out the fluid.
Where are
But
you at now as far as your kidney function?
I think it's like zero, honestly.
Zero.
I don't even urinate really anymore. Like
Okay.
my legs are always puffy at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm at that point.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. And you're utilizing now a therapy that you've taken into your own hands, which was a kind of a change from where you started, right? Where did you start your journey as far as replacing the functions of kidneys and with what therapy?
Yeah, so at first they put me on the emergency dialysis, which is through the artery of the neck, which that one was pretty interesting. When they were telling me at the hospital, I thought it was like temporary. I thought it was something that you just like they're gonna do for a one-time treatment, and then maybe the function of the kidneys will maybe start kind of recovering.
Oh God.
And while I'm in there, you know, I'm not even really understanding a lot of things, you know, and I'm not the type of one to like freak out and like try to, you know, just lose my mind in there. But I really just was in a weird shock. I just didn't really believe anything. And so they put me on the hemodialysis. I was there for 6 months. I did that for 6 months, and while I was there, they kind of gave me that option to either continue with hemo by putting a, you know, through my arm, was it graft
or fistula?
Yeah, graft fistula, and then they also gave me the option for PD, which is through the stomach, where they put a catheter in your stomach and you dialyze through there. And after talking to whoever came by and kind of explained everything, I chose PD, which I actually like better than hemo, but I do know it's weaker and it's every day. There's really no days off.
Right.
So that's another thing about the longevity of it is when you're thinking in the very beginning of it is you know you got to do it, and then after years goes by, you're thinking, what happens if I like skip a day, or what would happen? You know, you're kind of you know, testing things with yourself.
Have you tested it?
I have actually. When I was in Hawaii and I came back, I actually ran out of the solution. So I was doing it manually a little bit, and I actually felt like shit
Oh no.
for like 4 days.
Yeah.
And then I had to wait until my shipment came.
So you ran out of like the one for your cycler, and you had some bags for some manual exchanges. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the manual was just not doing it, and I could tell like, And I've actually skipped one day a couple times too, where it's just like, but it doesn't do anything. I think it's accumulating of a couple of days.
Right.
Like if you have 2 days, maybe 3 days, you're gonna feel like shit. And that's what happened to me. And I was like, oh damn, maybe I do got kidney failure. I was thinking, maybe this is,
I mean, I think it's important to kind of address what you said, is that peritoneal dialysis may not be as efficient as that hemodialysis for the hours that you sit there, right? But you're doing cycling at night, is that right?
At night.
So you're doing it daily, which
Yeah.
means that the peaks and valleys of blood values and blood volumes is not as volatile as it is with every other day at hemodialysis. Because I don't know if you had any issues with that while you were there. Quite often patients, when they leave dialysis, they grab a couple of these, and then before they're even back to dialysis, they can't breathe, right? They're short of breath. Their blood pressure is high. They're swelling, as you mentioned to us. So did you have those experiences with hemo, and were they like more extreme than what you experienced with the daily peritoneal dialysis, or do you not notice a difference?
I actually felt better on hemo.
You did?
I do, and it's funny that I even saying that, because people are like, "Why are you going back to hemo?" I just like the daily lifestyle I have with PD better.
Okay.
But obviously with hemo, after the treatment, I felt like a truck hit me.
Right.
Until the next day, I felt all right. But that next day, I actually felt really good for the first time in a while, and I did like hemo. Honestly, I liked all the nurses. I liked everyone that was helping me out, that was there at that facility. But I didn't like the energy from the people that are on dialysis. I felt like it was kind of miserable in there, and it also just looked so, I don't know. It just looked so like it was like a cash grab or something to me. I'll be thinking weird sometimes, like, why is like, do these people are ever gonna get better? Are these people just in here because it's the only thing that can stay alive and it's like a profit for someone else? I fall in that rabbit hole too sometimes, of like being able to, is kidneys actually reversible? Like, can you actually figure out a way to naturally heal kidneys, if it's at the end stage? I'll be looking up that stuff sometimes too, And I mean, apparently they haven't figured out a way, but sometimes I feel like on Earth there's got to be some sort of, treatment that can at least help, maybe wake up the kidney,
I mean, there sure is a lot of innovation going on right now, and I sometimes I have similar thoughts, and some of it from exposure of technology or medication that could be shelved. When I say shelved, like, yeah, this works, but let's put it over here, because we have a bigger, you say, a cash grab with this medication that does this. I again, exposure. So these are just thoughts of, like you say, maybe some conspiracy or just some greed in all industries, basically. But healthcare is a business for a lot of people.
No, it's a big one, and when I go to my clinic too. I feel like sometimes every now and then I always get like a funny vibe from people, trying to kind of keep me there.
Yeah.
In a weird way. And I could just be thinking crazy, and, I could be thinking the wrong thing, but, every now and then, you hear these stories, and then every now and then I think about myself. I'm like, is this really helping me? Or, are they really just trying to, help me just enough to stay here? Do they really want me to get a transplant? Yeah, I think everyone has those thoughts, and that's kind of just.
Let's explore the center's miserable environment that you described. Some of it being the people who need the treatment there, and then some of it kind of sounded like it looks a certain way. Was there an institutional feel to you? Could it be better, like to make people feel more comfortable? And if so, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not a really pretty thing in general. Like the machine in general it just looks miserable. Like there's really not much you can do to that part. So I understand that. I wasn't expecting going in there and thinking it's going to be like a party or like something that's going to be positive. I think it's more about the people that were there, because I know dialysis is a lot on the mental. It's all mental at this point to me. And the people there just look they gave up. And granted, everyone there is a little bit older. Like they're probably, average is probably like 50, 60. I've seen like 80-year-old, and I would see a lot of people go to the hospital there. I saw a lot of people end up dying there a couple of times.
Yeah.
And you just see a lot. And I know it's not everyone's fault. You really can't stop some of those things. I just think maybe, I don't know. I mean,
you obviously made a trade-off. I mean, you told us that you felt better with the therapy, but the lifestyle, and then I don't know if that would have affected you mentally to continue to sit in a center where you felt that way about the people that were around you. You know, as you said, you weren't expecting a party. Have you ever been in a clinic that there's a party? Because I got to tell you, last time you were here, you said like there were some really cool techs and nurses, and I've worked with Paco. I've worked with some Filipina nurses and techs that actually throw karaoke parties on the floor, and the patients, they really love it. You know, they're
you know
singing
what? I've
karaoke.
never seen that. I really haven't.
Yeah.
Well, and I did like all my. They were all Filipino too, and like a couple. You know, so they
They even dim the lights.
they dim the light.
Strobe lights and all
Yeah,
that.
that's crazy. You know, I never heard that, but
Yeah.
you know,
What about the people online? You guys see any, you know, celebrations or ways to kind of lighten up the mood in the clinic? If you do, please share it with the audience. We definitely need to know, because this is, I mean, I gotta say it's heartbreaking to hear that some people would not make the choice to go to PD, or wouldn't have the option to go to PD, and then they would sit there feeling that way. And you know, what would that do for, I don't know, for what we're going to talk about is just longevity and this fight that you're putting up to make sure that you live as long as possible with the best life that you can have.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking maybe, and it's spread apart just enough to where you can't really talk to some of them too. So I was wondering maybe if it was like a dialysis center where maybe more people chimed in, like the patients maybe chimed in and kind of had like a more of a community. I think the difference between like on TikTok and the people on hemo, there's really not much community, and if there is, I don't really see it as much.
Yeah,
you know, people on PD, I feel like they're pretty on it. You know, and I have a lot of friends on there that are on PD, and I feel like it's a very, you know, we're very communicative on there compared to people on hemo.
Yeah.
And it could be an age thing, you know, also too. When I was there, I was the only young one, and I did ask the nurse, I was like, is there any other young people too? They're like, yeah, there's actually some that's younger than you, but we like to spread the young people away from each other. That's what they told me.
Really?
And they said the reason for that is because they don't like when there's too many young people and they're talking a lot, because it makes the older patients annoyed. That's what they told me. I don't know if that was real or maybe that happened one time.
I mean,
you know?
maybe I would guess that that's kind of a case by case, and a lot of that is driven by the staff that perhaps don't want to deal with any sort of, you know, hey, they're talking about us, or they're being loud, or things like this. You know, I just want to say hello to a few people that are watching us. You know, first we've got Ruben Maldonado. He's a really longtime friend of mine. So what's up, Ruben? Tim Fitzpatrick, who's the CEO of Icona Health. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff in education. And I'd say, you know, one of the prongs of that education is really to help people understand things like home modalities for the benefits that you're pointing out to us tonight. Hope with Jonathan, who is a recent transplant patient. He's also got a YouTube channel called Hope with Jonathan. Great guy. Look forward to having him on the podcast here. He actually chimed in and talked about the difficulty of asking for help and how humbling that is. Nice. Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing. And hopefully you two can connect there. My son, Mason, is watching us, and he just puts, send his love. So, you know, we've got a community here that really is interested in hearing from you, Justin. Let's dive into the longevity aspect to it. What does longevity mean to you, and how are you approaching it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, longevity is really just how you take things and the framework that you build and all the data that you put together. I call it data. Every life lesson to me is like data. You know, it's like computer to me. So everything that I take in, you know, I observe it, acknowledge it, and then that's kind of what makes me who I am today. And I think part of that longevity is being able to put all those lessons together and kind of figure out who you want to be and how you want to perceive the world. And that's how I see longevity. And everyone has their own ways of doing it. Everyone is different. And depending on your surroundings and how you live, how your childhood was, that's who you're going to be, you know. Yeah. And I feel like I've taken a lot this past 2 years. And I've changed for the better, to be honest. And I think after all this, it's almost like a lesson to me where I've learned to be really mentally sharp. Because without this, I feel like I wasn't as strong as I am now today. And in a weird way, I actually appreciate that I'm going through this, because I feel invincible mentally. Physically, I'm always kind of feeling new changes, and I try to sweep it under the rug. But mentally, I feel as sharp as ever. And I really enjoy it, and I do like that I'm dealing with this in a weird way. And
You are sharp, man. I gotta say, like, when the first time you were here, I'm so new to podcasting, right? And I fought it for so long, and I still have such a hard time speaking. But you seemed like it was just like you've been on camera your whole life, and the answers were there. The were not there. So yeah, I'd have to agree with you, or commend you on the acuity of your conversation and your accuracy in expressing what you're feeling. The TikTok and the Instagram, I see these little short pills that you're delivering to people. It's the day in the life of, the challenges and the tactics to living, right? And I've got a lot of friends that are, I'd say, on the very high academic physician side, right? And they're doing a lot of things, man. Actually, I'm part of a WhatsApp group that is actually termed longevity.
Oh, okay.
And, there's a lot of the biohacking and things like ice baths and pretty extreme physical tests, running, weightlifting. Some people, like one of our guests, Omar Khatib, I'm not sure if you saw him, he likes jujitsu, right?
Oh, okay.
We talked to Egan Inoue from Hawaii, and I think he's actually shooting for Centurion status. That's his goal. Is he wants to live to be 100. He was just posted today. Centurion race, I think is what it's called.
I've seen some of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, the peritoneal dialysis at this point is one of those tactics for you. The changes in what you feel like were bad for you is another step. What else do you do to, manifest that longevity, to reach the maximum age with a quality life?
I feel like I've been fighting my whole life, and this is just another battle that I just got to do. I love fighting too. I love mixed martial arts too. I love, all that stuff that they're doing too. Like for me, if I wasn't dealing with this, I would love to pursue martial arts too. Because when I was a kid, I did it. I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with Bruce Lee.
What was your thing? Me too.
I did Taekwondo. I went up to the black belt when I was younger with friends. I did a lot of boxing. I thought little street fights too with friends in high school and college and stuff like that.
Yep.
I was into wrestling. I was into everything. I was obsessed with it. Even now, I watch the UFC. I watch all the boxing matches. I know all the fighters. I keep up with it. And to me, this is my fight.
Yeah.
And before this, it's funny because I never posted anything. My Instagram, before you met me, there was not a picture of my face on there.
Very private.
I was a private person.
Yeah.
And I think something switched into me where I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell my story. I'm gonna fight this. I'm going to just figure out what I got to do. And that's when I made the TikTok. My Instagram kind of changed. I just had my face more in it. I was more public. And that's kind of what also changed me too, because I started to meet people that I was inspiring, and that kind of pushed me to keep on going. And that felt pretty good. I never really had that feeling before.
Remind us your TikTok and Instagram.
The TikTok is Platinum Kidney, and the Instagram is Justin Pham, 2-piece.
Okay.
So
2-piece. Yeah.
Yep.
So you mentioned the people that you're inspiring, and I've actually kind of seen that you have a pretty significant amount of followers that are not just following you, but like interacting with you at a mentioning how inspiring, asking questions. What does that look like for you today, and what do you do with it? Is this a friendship community? Is this something that is going to go beyond that? Because today there's actually a lot of people, even some of who are watching us here, that are advocates, professional advocates, because they're able to tell their story in such a powerful and meaningful way.
Yeah, I wanted to. I think after all this, it put me in a place where I can actually motivate people. I want to keep on doing it. I think if I could finish my journey, I'll still keep on going. I feel like it's still a journey. When I get my transplant, or when I do, I'm still going to be in that community and keep on going. And I think fighting for these people that are dealing with it, I think I'll keep on going. I don't see why I'll stop. And it's interesting because kind of same thing. It's just I never really felt that before. I never really inspired someone. And even if I did, it wasn't really. I never really thought about it too serious. And I'll get messages every single day, and I put a lot of time into it too.
Yeah.
Every night I respond to almost as much as I can, at least everything. All the comments I respond to, all the messages, all the people that are telling about what they're worried about, and I get a lot of messages about, hey, do I have kidney failure? You know, things like that. People are always really scared.
Paco, did you message Justin?
Yeah, it's right there.
Well, yeah, I know, but he just said he gets a lot of message asking about
No.
if they. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you think
So-
you got kidney failure?
Dude,
You know, it was your episode that actually scared me.
yeah, he went home and had like back pain.
See,
But- but more-
that's good. You know, that's in my
thinking
back
about it,
always
right?
is kind of hurt.
Well, I
like
think
the
you
back.
mentioned it in your episode that you had some back pain and
Yeah.
And the bubbles in the pee, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I started
the
looking
bubble in
at
the pee. Yeah, that's the protein that's leaving. You know, I think there is another reason for that too. It's probably not all kidney failure. The thing is with kidney failure, the symptoms are pretty common with almost a lot of sicknesses.
yeah.
Yeah, at least, and I just figured that out myself.
Yeah.
Even with heart
Yeah.
failure, your legs can swell. I thought that was
That's right.
I
That's
thought
right.
typically it was just kidney failure,
Yeah.
but that's can
Yeah, so that's
happen.
why it's important to seek experts that
Exactly.
can kind of tell you what's going on, right? And Justin, I just got to tell you. So we got 2 comments or questions in the chat, and I just want to ask you: do you know a person named Tom Pham?
That's my dad.
Yeah. So he just said he's so proud of you. You know, keep the positive outlook, and hopefully the gifts that you've been waiting for are coming soon. And I'd like the whole audience to align with that and wish the same to you, and also express the pride, how proud we are of you for going through what you've gone through and turning it into something that you're thriving, but you're also thriving in a way that's impacting humanity. I mean, I see the number of people, and when you compound that, how many people they can help, we need more people like you, man. More
No, I
people
really
like
appreciate that. That means a lot. And coming from my dad too, that's cool. And I did tell him about this, and he's been following my journey with this as well. Follows
Yeah.
my TikTok, follows the Facebook, the Instagram, and stuff like that. He does a good job of keeping up with that. And I think another positive side to kidney failure is I've gotten a lot closer with my parents, you know, mom and dad, and it shows. I think it's cool, you know, because I think growing up, we went through a lot. You know, my parents split up when I was young, so I also had to deal with that. Me and my sister kind of raised each other, kind of raised ourselves. That also kind of put me in a position where I had to kind of grow up fast, and so anything that ever happened to me when I was young, I kind of brushed it away because I was so used to that.
Yeah.
I was so used to going through pain by myself. So even when I went through anything, even just like a simple breakup or a simple like a girl didn't like you back, it almost was emotionless to me because I already felt like I broke up with my family at a young age. You know, so that's how I felt when it came to, you know, divorce at a young age. But I just kind of just felt like it was normal too. And I didn't really feel that sad about it either.
No.
You know, I grew up being just emotionless. Even now, I feel like, and that could be something I've been learning. I've been feeling, especially with other kidney patients, I'm an advocate for them now. Like, I have a lot of soft spots for people that are going through stuff. But when I was younger, man, I went through life just emotionless. I didn't even care about anything. And it kind of helped me out growing up, I believe, because it made me who I am today. But I was just emotionless. Like, if this was back in the day and I was fighting a war, I would be in the front. I could die for this. I could really die for this. I could fight forever.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
I mean, I just got to say, I feel really honored to share the moment with you and Dad, and then to kind of hear like how much is, I know it's only the tip of the iceberg, but you know, how much it's gone into this relationship today. Question: have there been days where you feel really down, self-doubt, cloud your mind? Maybe some of the things in the past. When that happens, how do you erase those thoughts to kind of do things that? This really is a question that hits me hard too. Is, you know, I'm 47. Like, how do you stop those kind of thoughts like you just mentioned?
It's
right?
a good question. I do get sad, obviously. You know, even though I have this mindset of being invincible, I definitely have those days where I'll sit at the edge of the bed and be like, damn, I could really end it. You know, that actually happened to me about last week when I couldn't really breathe for like 3 days straight. My sleeping was really bad. And not that I ever had suicidal thoughts, but I just sat at the edge of my bed at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I was like, man, I could end this. I really could. And I think the only thing that really kind of solves that sadness, whatever it is, I'm never really sad for longer than a day. I don't know if that's a trained thing that I've had in my childhood where if you stay too long, you know, it's going to be bad. And I know it's bad. I think everyone feels that when you're sad for 2-3 days straight and all you think about is just, you know, being down, it could get ugly for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I know that. And so if I'm sad the next day, I try to wake up, get coffee, start the whole new day and really be grateful. I'm a very grateful person. And I think that is something that a lot of people probably don't have. You know, everyone has their own ways and things like that. But I just try not to be sad for longer than a day. That's my trick.
I mean, there's some logic there. And, you know, I was just hearing something about this recently that the more time you spend thinking about your problems, that, you know, that engulfment really is going to debilitate you, right? Like work, relationship, joy, all of those things, right? And you can't just snap out of it sometimes, right? It's so you're like, well, I'm going to give it a day, and then I'm going to what? So the things I've been hearing is that, like, well, you know, there's like a famous like a Navy SEAL general speech on, you'll see it all over the internet, where it's like, make your bed first thing in the morning, so that way you've accomplished something, right? You know, what are those things that, if you do things like that, that just like snap you out of it because you're busy, you're doing something, right?
Yeah, that is true. I actually do make my bed every single day. And the funny thing is when you make your bed every day, just that simple thing changes your whole life. I swear. It's actually kind of crazy. Because before that, you know, for example, when you go to a messy house and it's cluttered, you're kind of stressed out even when you get home. When you come home to a clean room, you come home to a clean house, it feels 10 times better. And when I started to make my bed every morning, it made a big difference. I would actually come home, look at my bed and be like, oh, that actually looks comfortable. After a long day of doing whatever I was doing, I look at my bed, I'm like, oh, this looks amazing. I'm going to go lay in it. But when back in the day when it was messy and pillows all over the place, it didn't look appealing. It's like, why come home to this when I don't even like want to even sit in this thing?
Right.
And just something simple as that, you know, work. And do you have a Goggins?
It's not Goggins.
Oh,
it's,
I love that guy.
It's McRaven, Tim Patrick. McRaven. Is that what it is, Bago?
Yeah, McRaven.
Yeah.
Admiral McRaven.
Admiral McRaven?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tim. And by the way, Tim Fitzpatrick was a SEAL in training. And really got some great stories as well. Tim, I can't wait to have you over here as well.
Hey, you got a lot of good guests that's tuning in. That's pretty cool.
You know, I've made it my my purpose to hear stories, right? And in business, like to be around people who have really powerful stories, right? That typically works out in business agenda, is if you have a purpose, right? When people start businesses and there's no like why, it's a really hard uphill battle. Not that business isn't a hard uphill battle, period, but when you got a really great why, which in your case, you know, the why behind your story here, and why you're telling your story is so powerful, and so many people have gone through it, have maybe succumbed to the challenges, or have thrived through the challenges with this invincible mindset. And I've met many people, Justin, that I can say I haven't met stronger people than those who have went through kidney failure or who are going through kidney failure. I think of people like, I'm not sure if you've heard of Lori Hartwell. She runs an organization called the Renal Support Network. And it's probably on like 30 plus years, and this is just a guess, of nonprofit functions where they do things like a teen prom. So quite often when kids have kidney failure, they miss a lot of the things that would be normal to childhood, like homecoming and proms and things like this, right? So there was a prom that was organized. It's really, really cool. A lot of celebrities donate their time to provide a good show. Companies donate tuxedos and dresses and limousines.
That's actually really cool.
Chauffeurs and things like this, so that the kids can go to a place where, you know, they can be a kid. But I'm curious about this. Like, when I think about Lori Hartwell and that prom, I remember one year, I think it was a Golden Globe Awards, and Jack Black had been nominated and then ended up winning the Golden Globe. And I hope I'm not speaking incorrectly here, but I think he skipped the Golden Globe and went to that teen prom. And he ended up being the prom king, right? Yeah. But he became really, really passionate about this because he's got a personal family member who has kidney failure, and I've seen him at several of the functions. So somebody like Lori Hartwell, right? We had a guy named Sam Trevino on. I don't know if you saw his episode, but like another guy that I can't believe how strong he is to be able to go through, I mean, multiple issues from kidney failure to stroke and living donation, roller coaster, right?
Yeah, there's so many people like that I've talked to too as well.
Who inspires you?
A lot of people on my TikTok, a lot of people that are posting about it too, and have, even in my opinion, a worse scenario than me. There's people that I know. His name is James. He has liver failure and kidney failure, and he's having a situation where he can't even get a kidney failure unless he gets a liver transplant. And there's so many other. There's this one girl that I follow. Her mom obviously manages the TikTok. She's 2. She's on PD.
Oh gosh.
There's so many people that are on there that I'm thinking, wow, and that's one thing that makes me kind of a little bit, stronger too. Because if I'm having a bad day, I'm looking at these people thinking, they got it worse than me, right. And they're still out here making videos talking about, positivity and being that strong mindset. So I can't be the one being like, oh, I'm just having a bad day. There's a lot of people on there that I follow that I have a lot of respect for. And I don't want to say like kidney failure is the worst one. I mean, people with cancer, there's people that are having, strokes, and same thing.
Yep.
I have a lot of people that follow me with any chronic illness, and I learn a lot too. So it's been a big learning curve for me as well to be able to kind of understand everyone's situation and seeing how they handle it. It's been pretty cool to see.
Let's think about, when you bring up the mom with a 2-year-old, that's gut-wrenching.
It's wild because the kid, the baby's 2, and I believe her name is Jessica. I'll have to double check. I think it's Jessica, or that's the mom's name. I forget. And they make a lot of videos, and they kind of explain how they're doing it. And the baby looks happy. I know at 2, you kind of don't know really what's going on, but you're still dealing with hooking up for 9 hours a day. And seeing that kind of put me back, because I remember seeing that for the first time. I'm thinking, wow, like a 2-year-old not being able to have that type of life that a 2-year-old would have. And then you think about the future of that baby, thinking, what's going to happen. And, it's pretty sad. And, it's a lot going on. But I think after you experience everything, you at least become grateful, and you see these people and their motivation to you too as well.
Yeah. You gotta check out Lori Hartwell. Look up Renal Support Network, because I think she was 2 when she had kidney failure. Okay. She's had like 4 transplants, been on every modality, just an amazing warrior. I don't know why I made this connection, but, mom with a 2-year-old child, like, I cannot imagine. I actually had a scare with my youngest daughter when she was about 2, where she had acute kidney failure. And it was from dehydration. She was sick. She ended up in the hospital getting hydrated, and then kidneys kicked back in the next day. No problem since then. But my first thoughts were like, oh my God. Like, I've been teaching this stuff for X number of years, right? And then what I knew at the time was that people with acute kidney failure quite often, like 50% of the time, succumb to whatever injury or illness caused that kidney failure. So it's quite deadly, right? Statistically. So my thoughts went to the worst, right?
Yeah, that's what happens.
Now they're on dialysis though, and again for me, I've dialyzed patients in hemodialysis. I have not done peritoneal because that's typically done with self-care, right? But my thoughts would be the same. It's like, I would have a hard time maintaining a positive outlook. This is me. I need somebody like you, right? We need somebody like you to show us that you can maintain positivity, you can maintain hope, you have memories to make and purposes to fulfill, right? So, Tom, your father messaged us here, right? And I'm just curious, like, how do you put yourself as a 30, you're a 32-year-old man. I'm not sure the age of your father. And I'm trying to kind of think of myself with my kids now. Like, I have a 26-year-old daughter. Like, what if she was ill? Like, what am I going through? Do you feel like it's, what do you think that's like? Or what do you know that's like?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it, but, if I were to really think about it, I'm sure both my parents, to be a parent and being able to help your kid, but you can't, must be an interesting feeling.
Yeah.
And I think with my age, obviously PDs is self-care. And a lot of the times, I'm sure they want to help, but sometimes there's really not much you can do other than just be a support. And I've told this to other people too, when people ask me especially when someone's reaching out, like, hey, I have a partner dealing with dialysis, what can I do? I think my answer to them always is just being able to know about it, be knowledgeable about it, look up things, make sure to let the person, whoever you love, is on it, that you know about it, you're researching about it, you're willing to learn about it. Because when someone says, oh man, I feel for you or whatever, and they're not dealing with dialysis, sometimes it's weird to say, it kind of doesn't really feel as much as someone that actually is dealing with it. So that's why that community is pretty strong. But I think just being able to know and help and be support is the best thing you can do. And my family does a really good job at doing that. And like I said before, I think everyone in my family got a little bit closer. And I think something like that happens is a lesson for everyone, not just me. Listen to my sister, dad, and mom. It's that life can really be gone like that. And so to really appreciate those times. And even me, like, every time I call my mom or my mom calls me, or if I talk to my family, I make sure it's, it means a lot. And before, like I said, there was a time where I probably didn't really talk to my family that much when I first moved here, just because, you're moving, you're doing your thing, you kind of forget about it. And we didn't really talk as much. So that's why I say a lot of the things that happen sometimes is, in a way, maybe it was supposed to happen. Maybe me getting sick was the bridge to put everyone together, and it's a life lesson for everyone. And if I go out, it was still a lesson for everyone, to be closer to family value, and family's important, That's how I see it.
That's very powerful, man. Melissa also just commented on how impressed she is that she calls it the half glass, half full, right? Despite the challenges, positive outlook, truly motivating. I'm motivated. I'm 47, just turned 47. I think we talked about it, that trying to figure out and make my mind up that I'm going to improve my health. I don't, thank you. I don't have any outliers outside of like weight and probably just complaints, which can be sometimes overbearing when you're in your own head, right? And I just love that you point out that you need to see other people's plight in life. You need to see what other people are going through to appreciate what you have. And I'm going to say this, and maybe it's going to stir up a whole bunch of stuff online, but I feel like if you woke up in America today, that you're in much better shape than a lot of people in the world today that truly have something to feel bad about. I just came back from Europe. And the travelers through the area, like, you can feel what's going on in the world. You can feel more than anger, but true pain from people from certain regions.
For sure.
What are your thoughts on what I said? Did it rally you in a way like, hey, what are you talking about, or do you feel the same way?
I do feel the same way. I can see why you think that. I think right now is we're kind of like in an exploring stage. I always say with America, I think we're really trying to explore who we are as an American. I think there's a lot going on, obviously, with the Israel and the Palestine. And to me, when I was going through everything, I started to study Islam because I felt like, I was born Buddhist. My family is Buddhist. But we all knew that, or like I knew that Buddha's not a god. We never saw him as he's the creator, the one and true creator, one true God.
Right.
So I always just saw him as a knowledgeable person that created Buddhism, which is a very beautiful religion. I still respect to this day.
100% agree.
You know, there's a lot. Yeah, I see one right there. I have it on my arm as well, and I love his teachings. But there was one thing that was missing to me. It was that he is not a god. You know, and I think now it's funny because I know there's a lot of things with like the Muslims and they see them as dangerous people. But the crazy thing is you know, there's more Asian Muslims than there are than any other race.
Oh yeah.
And I think people forget that.
Yep.
They always just think it's the Middle Eastern people. But there was actually more Asian Muslims in general in the world than any other race. And I think Islam is a very beautiful religion because there's no one tied to it. It's just God. Allah just means God. God is just God. You know, with Christianity, Jesus is the Son of God, the Holy Trinity. You know, they see, you know, but to me, I always felt that a man can't be a God. No man can, and no God would ever make a man God. That's what I would think. These are all just opinions. And as I was going through this and I was researching Islam, it made me actually feel stronger. It made me feel like I'm actually, you know, submitting to this God. I feel like I'm actually stronger, which is an interesting thing. But I never really spoke on it much before. This is actually the first time I'm actually speaking about it. And because I know what's going on with like the Israel and you know, there's a lot of it's very touchy right now. But to me, I just always thought that Islam is a very beautiful religion. And if I were to say...
I'll say openly, I agree with you. And I'm not a religious person. I appreciate many of the doctrines of many religions for the beauty of the messaging, you know, that quite often is very, very similar. And I'll tell you that while in Amsterdam recently, I saw a pretty decent... I don't want to call it a protest. It was more of a what would you say a rally maybe
or a rally. Yeah.
It was so beautiful, man, and it was a very large group of Palestinian supporters, but it was so beautiful. Like there was no anger, no shouting in a way that was like scary. It was like nice music and the beautiful waving of the flag, and if they had the opportunity, they would engage with people and talk to them about what message they're saying. So I think there are people in probably every religion and you know, Christianity not exempt at all, right? Of being bad actors in the religion, right? But ultimately, I think most of them are kind of created to keep people good, you know, righteous, whatever that is. Maybe seeing it in different ways. So you know, not at all strange to me that you gravitated from Buddhism to looking or studying Islam, and maybe you will go through other exploratory exercises in your life. I haven't told this before on the podcast, but when I was very young, I went to seminary. I was ordained, and part of the studies there expanded into something called apologetics, where it was like arguing against other religions, and I just couldn't do that. You know, yeah, I would like to learn about them all, but I don't want to go and tell you that you're wrong for what you believe.
You know, I always tell people, you know, when shit hits the fan, you're gonna pray to somebody.
Can we go down that road a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I've always talked about when teaching new people in dialysis, right? That, hey, let me tell you a story. So I had a student probably 15 years ago, matter of fact. When was the Japan earthquake or the
Tsunami?
Yeah, the tsunami.
It was 2008 or 2009, right?
Wait, the Japan tsunami?
Yeah.
The big one, the one that like the most recent big
Yeah,
one. I think
really
it was like 08 or something.
So it was right when I had started my business. I had some, you know, first few batches of students. One of the girls in class literally said to the rest of them, you know, you have to be this. This is God's punishment to the world, you know, what's going on over there for their sin. And, yeah, okay, believe that. But it came out in class, right? And I kind of shut it down as like, what, you know, it's okay to believe things. You should believe, you should have belief. Faith is better than none, right? And I've seen that through people who are on dialysis, that they do better when they have something that they believe in. And I say, like, what if your patient or the person that you're serving says that, you know, every morning I wake up, I go to my backyard, and I pray to the tree. Are you going to tell them that no, you have to believe this, or else nothing's going to work? You have to close your eyes when you make a wish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on, like, has it helped you? Any sort of faith or belief? Do you think that people suffering through adversity would benefit or should have some sort of faith that is of a higher, like in your case, you mentioned creator?
What I truly believe is when you have a society that have no faith, it can get dangerous. And I think from what we know now, if a society is majority believe in a God or have faith, we know what it's like. We know what happens. Yeah. But I think for the first time ever, too, in America, we're dealing with the time where a lot of the kids don't actually believe in a God or have faith. And I think if you have faith in just yourself, that's dangerous. Because you don't know. Like, when you just have faith in yourself, I think everyone should have faith in something. And I think a society that's godless could be very dangerous. And I think we're seeing it right now. I could be wrong. Maybe it might be the next most beautiful thing when we need that. But I think from what I'm seeing right now, a godless society, it can become, it's dangerous. And it's also at a point where it's a lot of testing, And I think if you look at other countries that is, even Orthodox Christians, you can see it's very tame. There's not much crime. There's a lot of people that respect each other.
Right.
There's a lot of, and also having culture and having routine. I think as humans, that's really good. I think humans are flawed. If we're out there just doing whatever we want to do, that's also dangerous.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a guideline. You have to have structure. You have to have those things in life. That's what makes someone strong too. If you just go out there and just be a person and do whatever you want, that doesn't mean you should do it.
So I'm inspired by my travels right now, and I gotta say that very interesting. Going to Amsterdam and then Prague, Czech Republic, or I think they call it Czechia now. But Czech Republic, right?
Yeah. What religion is that? Is it Muslim?
They had Orthodox
right?
and Christian there.
Gotcha.
So Catholic and Christian.
Okay,
that was
gotcha.
the bulk of it. And I mean, it's beautiful. I'll send you some pictures. I went over this bridge that was just lined with saint statues, the most beautiful. And like I was really, it was a weird feeling to walk through this history. I mean, it was so old, so beautiful, so much meaning behind it. It was like from the first Czech emperor of the Roman Empire. But then you also think about World War II and what happened in the region there. Just a lot of history that it was inspiring. But one of the things that stood out to me was Amsterdam and Czech Republic are both very clean, low crime, but they both have a lot of stuff that we would say we shouldn't be able to do or we can't do in the United States going on. One of them, if you think about Amsterdam, Netherlands, what do you think of?
I mean, I think beautiful. I think it's pretty nice, to be honest with you.
I don't know. When my age, right, 47, I think about cannabis cafes and things like this.
Okay.
And it's all over the place there, man. That's what it is. But like you think about cannabis, and cannabis in the United States is recreational and it was medicinal for quite a while already. It's becoming more accepted. But I think people still frown on it quite a bit, like especially in public. It was totally different in Amsterdam, right? But the crime rates and stuff like that are not near what they are here in the United States. I had a friend who told me, well, the right to bear arms is different as well, so people don't get, I don't know. But cannabis was wide in both countries. Sex workers were wide in both countries. I walked into a souvenir shop. They had switchblades and butterfly knives and brass knuckles right in the center of Prague, man. Like I was just blown away. I should have took pictures of this stuff, but I was like, but you guys don't have any like crime. I mean, if you look up Czech Republic, it's a relatively safe and one of the better countries in Europe. And like I had the greatest time there. But again, completely different than what you say, like the rules that we have in the United States. So have you traveled a lot?
A decent amount, not as much as I want to, but.
What's your favorite place? What's the reason?
I love Asia. When I went to Vietnam, I loved it. And the same thing there. It's pretty safe, I would say. I didn't feel any danger, and I felt it was safer in Vietnam than it is here in LA. by a lot.
Yeah.
I think also too when it comes to safety in other countries, it has a lot to do with culture. And I think here in America, the culture here is, like I said, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I think when people argue about, even I'm not Christian or anything, but when people talk about, or Christians or any religion, there's a lot of rules. But if you think about it, America has more laws and rules than any other country in the world.
Right.
So it and from that you see that doesn't even help. That doesn't work.
But I mean, I gotta say, I walked away, and a great friend of mine gave me a book called you're gonna laugh, Narconomics.
Narconomics.
And it was basically talking about the approach of the United States towards like the drug war. It actually makes it thrive. Whereas countries in Europe where they've legalized things, but then given like crop farmers alternative means of growth, like for like, let's say what in South America, they grow coca shrub, right? Because it's cheap to grow. I can start my crops without somebody funding me, and then I can sell it for a higher price than I could sell corn or banana or coffee or things like this, which takes a lot of money to start. And then I can't sell it for as high. Does that make sense? So it's like people in different parts of the world are almost cornered into being a part of that ecosystem. And when you just look at the getting rid of it, you actually enhance the problem. So prohibition, right? Didn't do a whole lot of good, did it?
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know much about that, but you make a good point. I feel like, what's going on now is we're in a very exploring stage. We're trying to figure out what works best for us.
Yeah.
And I think over time, time will tell, but I think right now, everyone's uneasy with America. Yeah. I don't think and even just the pride of America, I don't see as much pride and patriotic as I used to when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of pride being in America. Like my family came through a lot just to be here.
That's right.
And I have these conversations with people, and they will say, fuck America. Like I don't like being here. But at the end of the day, I have a different story. Like my grandma, my parents, they put a lot just for me and my sister to be here.
Did they come during the?
They came here after the war.
After the war.
So it's like I have people telling me about how bad America is, but then I have my family over here.
Yeah, it was the dream.
Dying just to be here, just to escape. Yeah. And so I'm not going to be being disrespectful to America. I've always had pride to be American. It's just I can't say it like I used to, just because a lot of people, if you put up an American flag, they're just going to think you're racist.
Right. You're right.
We're at that point
you're right
now.
Yeah. Or that you're voting for a certain a certain party, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree with you. It's troubling time. No matter what your opinions are, I think it's very important that next November everybody get out there and voice. Raise their voice in the way that we can, right? Go to the ballot box, right?
No, I agree. I think now people are really waking up to seeing what they voted for, and they're not really happy about it.
Yep. So, Justin, we've covered a lot tonight, and I think you've truly inspired the entire audience. You kind of went down a bit of a discussion on the family approach. When I asked about how they feel, and you mentioned about learning as much as they could, kind of being knowledgeable about what you're going through, because that develops empathy as well, right? Like when, or intersubjectivity. When you know more about the way what people are going through, you can either appreciate it, tolerate it, empathize with it, show some compassion in a better way, right? If I asked you, what is the most important thing from Justin Pham in relation to what you've gone through that people would know? So let's say, society, families, like, hey, there's people that have kidney failure. What's the most important thing for people to know, aside from that there's this thing, kidney failure, about how to be there or how to support or how to advocate through your vote for people with kidney failure?
That's a good question. I think the whole thing about kidney failure is a lesson for everyone, regardless if you're dealing with it or someone that's going through it. I think it's a big lesson. And for me, being on dialysis and having kidney failure, to me, it's just all a big lesson, and it's just how you take it. And I like to make everything in my life just a big lesson, regardless if it's small, big, or medium. A lesson's a lesson, and I think from there you will always ultimately grow into a better person after that lesson. You know, and I think that everyone that's going to go through it, I think that one of the most important part, and I always tell people, it's just a lesson. It's just a lesson to you. It's a lesson for everyone around your life. And regardless if I even think about it too, even if I die off, like I said, if I don't make it, it's still a lesson for everyone. It was a lesson to me, and it was a lesson to my family. If I die, you know, live or die, it's always going to be a lesson. And I feel like that's a very good lesson for everyone. At the end of the day, it may sound sad, but once everything's done, it's always a good lesson.
Yeah, man, don't miss the lesson. I think is really an important part of that, right? That there are lessons that sometimes we don't acknowledge. So I appreciate that. I had a really interesting conversation over the last week with a friend of mine that is going through stuff that's much less devastating than physical illness or chronic illness. And you know, something came out of his mouth that was like, well, no, there's no chance. It's over, right? And it made me think about my dad, because he had stage 4 colorectal cancer 15 years ago, right? Stage 4. That means he's dead, right? And he went through a lot of those days too, you know, of like, what's going to happen? Like it's over. Like, this is a really bad prognosis, right? They cleared out the cancer pretty quickly. Pretty quickly. You know, I think surgery and radiation, right? He didn't lose his hair. Like, this guy still has black hair, man. He looks younger than me. Like, I literally am bald, right? He made it through that. He got taken apart for a while and had the ostomy bag, right? And then they put him back together, and then things got worse. Like, the aftermath of the cancer was worse than the cancer.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Then he got taken apart again. And he's, you know, he has regular, like, occlusions that put him in the hospital, and, you know, they seem really, really serious. They are serious. But that was 15 years ago he had that, and he said, like, you know, it's over. And he's went through trial after trial after trial after trial. And here's the thing I know about my dad, and that, like, I really, really admire about this guy is, and I gotta say that, you know, it's more than just him, because he's got a partner next to him that is, like, rock solid, my mom, right? It's not over till you give up, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you don't lose the fight until you stop fighting. You're a fighter. And I just want to encourage you, as you've got the right mindset, but, you know, keep that mindset. And for everybody who's watching, whether it's kidney failure or it's the breakup or it's something horrible that happened in your life, that, like, it's not over until you give up. So don't give up, because you're guaranteed an outcome there when you give up.
I like that. No, that means a lot. I think fighting physically, mentally, you know, you gotta stay strong, gotta keep on going. And when you fight, you know, you always just feel better. At the end of every battle, you're gonna look at yourself and really become stronger and really be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel, you know, every day.
Audience, any last questions for our wonderful guests here? Appreciate the time, Justin. Any last questions from the audience?
How about you, Paco?
If someone decides to offer their kidney,
Yeah.
would you take it right away?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's actually a really good question. I think it really depends on who it is.
Maybe I can add to that a little bit, because we've actually seen people that through things like this, where people were like, you know what, I got to reach out to this person, right? I know a news anchor that one of his, like, another actor was like, let me go, you know, and
That's awesome.
That happened, right? So would you take it? And, you know, is there a specific person that it's got to be from?
Obviously, with the blood type and stuff like that, we don't have to be the same blood type. You can also enter a donating pool. So you'll trade with another person that is also donating.
Right.
So I know I don't really worry about that. But I don't think I'm waiting for a specific someone. I think I will take it. And even if it doesn't work out and, you know, maybe they're not healthy enough, I still really appreciate it, and I respect for anyone that's willing to step up.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of people test through TikTok.
That's crazy, man. So it's just social friends, and that's awesome. Man.
It didn't work out. There was a lot of complications with age or insurance and stuff like that, or they were too far. But at the end of the day, I was always, respectful. I was always happy that they reached out.
Yeah.
It means a lot that people are willing to do it. And I would take it. Yeah, of course. I would definitely look into it. I'll see if we're compatible. I'll see if it can work. And I'll be very appreciative.
What did they say? I mean, like, I got to know, like, a couple of people from, so what did they say? Like,
there was one person from San Bernardino that went out and got tested and actually went to the UCLA survey and everything like that. But something with her medications that she couldn't donate with because she was on a certain
I think
thing.
I'm more interested in, like, what did they say? Like, hey, I saw you on TikTok and, like, can I find out if I'm like what did
basically
how did
that they watched some of my videos, and I think it's more of it's not. I don't think they watch one video and they want to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's a cumulative time of just watching many videos, and eventually they reach out and say, hey, I've been watching your videos, your inspiration. I would love to see if I can donate my kidney. Is there anything I got to do? I'll send them the survey. I'll send them what they got to go through with UCLA, but they are pretty strict with being. So for anyone that wants to donate, you have to be healthy. You have to be able to recover from it. You have to be active. You have to have no high blood pressures or any major, situations with health.
So in other words, it can't hurt the person, or they should be in a position where it's not going to.
Yeah, they got to be able to recover. You can't be overweight. You have to be a certain. Someone told me they'll even put them on a treadmill to see how their breathing is,
Stress
see how
test,
healthy
stuff
they
like
are.
that.
Yeah. And
Yep.
see, and it's 6 months of testing.
Oh wow!
Apparently, I haven't gone that far. They said about 6 months of testing. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I feel like I've seen people do way quicker than that. But I think those are the main ones with UCLA.
Yeah.
So those are the qualifications if you want to donate.
We're getting thanks in the comments. Again, we've mentioned some of the people who's watching, how they're serving in the community. From the technicians, I'm a technician. Justin, you met Omar with us
Omar,
before.
yeah.
We appreciate the stories. We appreciate you sharing, being vulnerable with us, telling us some stuff that you haven't told anybody. And Tom, he says he loves listening and really appreciate. We appreciate you, Tom. We appreciate Justin, and the moment of. I think there was more to it than what we see in the comments there. I'm happy to be a part of it and look forward to future conversations, whether it's kidney disease or just life. Like, you've inspired a lot of people tonight. So thanks again,
likewise.
brother. Paco, thank you for the night. Justin.
Yeah, thank you.
This episode has been brought to you by Dialysis Education Services.